So hello and welcome back to the channel. Well, if it's your first time here, my name's Andrew, and today I'm going to be looking at one of the features of the Mini 5 Pro, which is going to be the focus track. Now, focus track or active track is one of the features that covers all the DJI drones, and it's a really creative solution for when you're out filming by yourself and you don't have anyone else to help you. So whether you're out mountain biking, walking, skateboarding, whatever you're doing, you want the drone to be able to fly autonomously but still keep you in the center of the frame. And this is where the focus track comes in. Now, focus track is split into three subsections, and they are spotlight, point of interest, and active track. And I'm going to go through each one of these sections with you, how to use it, and when's the best time to use that particular function. And I'm also going to dive into some of the other aspects you've got, especially on the Mini 4 Pro and the Mini 5 Pro, where you can automatically adjust the drone during the active track as it's flying around you. But before I get started, I would like to say thank you to Eric, who's based in the Netherlands. Thank you, Eric, for doing the Buy Me a Coffee link. It's much appreciated. For those of you who don't know, there's a link below, and any funds I get from Buy Me a Coffee are going to go towards my next drone, which should be the DJI Neo 2, which is due out next month. And that will enable me to carry on making videos like this for my subscribers like yourself. So first of all, what is focus track? Well, focus track is the ability that DJI have given the drone to track you as you move around, or to track a specific object and then circle and keep that within the center of the frame. So essentially, focus track allows the drone to lock onto a person or an object or a vehicle so that your camera stays on it. And depending on the mode of the drone that you're using, the camera is either going to go around it, or it's just going to keep it in the frame, or it's going to follow it wherever it's going. So it's especially useful for when you're filming out solo, because you don't need any pilot or any second operator. Any creative movement is going to be done by the drone itself, and you're always going to get that dynamic cinematic motion. Now, as always, when you're doing the automated moves or any sort of tracking with the drone, you need to make sure that you've got the basic setup, like you've got enough battery, your return to home altitude is set, your return to home settings are set, and that you've got enough area for the drone to fly in. Another thing you need to remember when you're out flying is the lighting conditions, because the more light you've got and the better lit the scenario around you, the better the tracking feature is going to be. And also that the subject is going to be devoid of any clutter, like lots of trees or buildings around it, because that can confuse the drone as well. And just because the drone's got 360-degree sensors, or if you've got the Mavic 5, you've got the LiDAR, the sensors are not infallible. What I found is the faster you go, the less reliable the sensors are, because the drone can't keep up with you and comprehend what's coming towards it and make the necessary adjustments to get out of the way. Also try and avoid any sharp turns or suddenly stopping or going behind any obstacles, because that can interrupt the tracking capabilities of the drone as well. And obviously, if you do have a clear line of sight to the subject, that's going to improve the footage as well, because it means it's going to go stable wherever it's going, and it's not going to have to duck and dive out of any obstacles like trees or buildings, which could be in the way and obscure the footage that you're trying to do. Now, although the tracking does have the ability to identify the object it's tracking, whether or not it's a person or a vehicle or a boat, there are times when this can be quite deceiving. Now, I know there are a few issues with the DJI Mini 5 Pro software, especially involving tracking. But in this case, I was out last week and I was up on a cliff top and I was filming someone paddleboarding. So I locked onto them, put the drone into active track mode, and just tried to do a point of interest around them. So what the drone did, it started rising and then ascending. It was moving towards the paddleboarder and then away from the paddleboarder. So the flight path of the drone was completely erratic. It wasn't a nice, smooth point of interest, which I was expecting to do, which I normally get when I am filming static buildings or people just walking. Now, I don't know whether or not it was the water that was affecting the sensors. I wouldn't say it was, because I know there was enough distance between the surface of the water and the drone itself. So I've always been wary of that when I am flying over water. It could just be the fact that you do get these little glitches with the Mini 5 Pro's software. So bear that in mind if you are flying over water. So it was a bit of a squeaky bum time, and I thought, get the drone back, because I didn't want to lose it because it was acting so erratically. So in spotlight mode, you're going to lock onto that subject. Now, as I said earlier, that subject could be a person or a building, it doesn't really matter, but the drone's going to lock onto that, and then it's going to go in an either clockwise or anti-clockwise direction at a set speed that you do on the controller. Now, when you are doing this, you do have the ability to move the drone in and out or up and down compared to the subject. So you can do some more dynamic effects, but the drone is still going to keep going in that circular motion around whatever the subject is. Okay, so there's going to be two ways you can do the active track. You can either draw a square around your subject, like that, and it brings up the focus track, which is going to be enabled. Or the second way is you've got the square with a little dot on the left-hand side. if you select that, that's going to bring up the subjects within the area that it can track. So as you can see now, it's got a little plus sign on me. So I'm going to select that. I'm in and go over to point of interest, and I put it on to record. And now you can see that I've got clockwise or anti-clockwise. And the further I go up those arrows, the quicker the drone's going to go. So I'm just going to move it off to the right. And you can see now the drone is circulating. So you can see now the drone is circling me that way. But if I speed it up, you can see that the speed's increased to 3 meters a second. And again, if I slow it down and come closer towards the center, you can see it's going to slow down to, well, 0.5 of a meter. And then I can also obviously have it going back the other way. So it's turning around and it's going away. Now, as I said, you can also adjust the altitude. So if I move the drone higher up, it's still keeping me in the center of the frame as I'm climbing. And I could also move it further away, particularly right up. Also move it further away if I wanted to. And as you can see there, it's still keeping me well and truly in the center of the frame. Now, I don't know whether you can see this, but the drone, if I stop that. Now there was no high wind warnings or anything, but you could see the way that the drone was reacting, and it was being quite erratic again as it was going round. So I'm going to bring it down slightly, and I'm going to have it going back the other way. So let's go back onto point of interest and have it come that way and see if it does a similar thing. So now I think the footage itself is quite smooth, but the drone is a bit erratic. Let me stop that. So again, I'm going to go to point of interest and just have the drone go around me. And you can see now it is keeping me nice and smooth in the center of the frame. I can move it back slightly. And it's still keeping me nice and smooth in the center of the frame. So that's basically the way that the active track point of interest is going to work. The drone is just going to circulate around the central subject, and then you can adjust the parameters with the height and the distance from that subject directly, and that's going to dynamically update the flight path. Now, one thing you do need to remember, if you're filming yourself, you need to deselect yourself before you try and bring the drone back, because otherwise it won't approach you, because the sensors are going to detect you and you as the subject, and it's going to stop several feet away from you and you won't be able to bring it in. So always make sure that you deselect the subject when you are bringing the drone back. And before I move on to doing the final one, which is the active track, I'm going to take the opportunity to say I'm not sponsored. So if you could do the like, subscribe and the notification bell, that would be great. And I've got plenty of other videos also on the basics of using the Mini 5 Pro on the channel. If you could watch those as well, that would be fantastic. That would really help me out. I also want to say thank you again to Eric for the Buy Me a Coffee. And if you want to do the same, there's a link below. And this means I can put any funds I get from that towards new drones like the Mini, not the Mini, sorry, like the Neo 2, which is due out next month, because obviously I'm not sponsored, so everything I do has got to come out of my own pocket. So that would be greatly appreciated as well. Thanks. Now, when I was filming the point of interest, the drone did start to act erratically. Now, the drone didn't have a high wind warning. It was quite sheltered by the trees, but as it was going around, it was sort of tilting one way and then the next, moving backwards and forwards. So I think this could be a glitch within the software of the DJI Mini 5 Pro. So I would bear that in mind. If you have got an early version of the software, I'll put whatever version I've got up in the comments here so you can know what I've got. It may be it's going to be fixed in a further software update, but just bear that in mind when you are out flying. So the next one I'm going to look at now is going to be Spotlight. And with Spotlight, it just means the drone is going to stay in a fixed location, and then it's going to track you as the subject as you move around. So the plan is I'm going to put the drone up, I'm going to just ride my mountain bike up and down the path, and then you can see the drone tracking me as I move. But the drone is actually remaining in one fixed spot. And again, as with point of interest, if you press the focus track icon on the side of the controller, the drone is going to pick up on any trackable subject within that area, and it's going to put a plus sign over them. So you just need to press on that plus and the drone will automatically lock on to that particular object. You do need to be aware of, if you're tracking something like traffic, a lot of the vehicles are going to have little crosses on them, and by the time you press the car that you want to follow, it's going to be out of frame, or the drone hasn't had enough time to actually lock onto it and track it. So you're better off using point of interest on slow moving or static objects. I wouldn't use them on anything which is travelling at quite a speed. So I've selected me, I've got on spotlight mode, and I've pressed record. So the drone should keep tracking me. So I'm just going to go out onto the path and just ride the bike up and down. So the last mode I'm going to look at now is going to be the active track. So again, we need to select the subject and then go on to the bottom, click on the eye if you haven't got the options there, and you can select active track. Okay, so you can see now that you've got on the screen, you've got two concentric circles. So if you press on the three lines on the left of that, that's going to bring up the option for your outer circle and your inner circle. And you can see that you've got it set for a person or a vehicle, and then the radius you want. So you could do a radius of a minimum of 4 meters, or then you can go the outer radius up to 20 meters. But obviously to bear in mind the scenery and where you're flying to make sure that you've got enough clearance for the drone to fly. And then the drone will fly any distance between those two circles. So in this case, 5 to 7 meters. You can also set the inner height and the outer height, and that's going to come from 2 meters going up to 15 meters. But again, try and bear in mind the scenario that you're flying the drone in. Then once you're happy with that, you can just go out of it. You've also got above the stop, you've got a couple of options which say auto. So the drone now is going to do its own movements around you, totally autonomously. So you can see it's moving out, it's flying around me, and there's no input from me. I'm holding my hands up, and the drone is just flying around, filming me as it goes. Obviously bear in mind where you are, because the drone's going to be limited to where it can go. Then next to that, you've got three other options, which is going to be your standard, your cycling, or your skiing. Well, living in Wales, we don't get snow, so that's pointless. Cycling mode is going to focus, as it says, on the subject with a rapid response. Now on the left hand side, you can see you've got two concentric circles, and this is going to be where the drone is going to be following you. And you can place the drone in whatever position you want. So for example, at the moment, you can see it's to the back left of me, whereas if I press forward, it's going to move slightly across to in front of me. If I click to the left, it's going to move out to the left of me. And then if I want to click it far out to the right, then it's going to move out to the right, but it's still going to keep within those parameters. Now really, this is only that useful if you are out in wide open spaces. If you're in more confined or challenging areas, I wouldn't risk it, because the drone's not going to compensate quickly enough if there's lots of trees and you're going at over walking pace. So it's only really useful from my point of view if I'm in a wide open area and I'm walking around and I want the drone to do something autonomously. I wouldn't use it in any other situation. Now for me, when I am cycling out with the drone, I always tend to have the drone behind me or in front of me. I very rarely have it to the side, and I certainly wouldn't use it with the auto feature unless I'm in a wide area, because the drone's going to be all over the place. You go in too fast for it to compensate properly and you run the risk of crashing the drone. So from a personal point of view, if you are mountain biking or road cycling, just stick to it in front, but preferably behind you, because if it's behind you, you know that the track is going to be clear because you've just ridden it. And if you look at the footage there, you can see about the instability of the drone when it's tracking. Like, I'm not moving, there's not much of a wind, and yet the drone is pulsing back and forth, and it is moving all over the place. And there's no high wind warnings or anything like that. So that is something to be aware of on this latest version of the software. So I'm going to go up on now on one of the other paths, which is a bit more open, and then I'll give you a demonstration of how that works. But I'm going to set it to 4 meters for inner and say 7 meters for outer, and then a minimum inner height of say 5 meters and an outer height of say 8 meters, because I know that's going to give me enough clearance for where I am. So I've just come down the track now. The drone collided with bushes and trees and twigs 4 times and managed to survive. On the 5th time, it went into another tree and it crashed, but luckily it was okay, it landed on some grass. So I wouldn't use the drone on an enclosed area. And when I say enclosed area, I mean anything which is narrower than about 20-25 feet. Anything wider should be okay, but anything narrower than that, you're going to ask for trouble if the drone's tracking on the side. If it's going in front of you, it should be okay, but there were a few times where I was quite nervous and did swear quite a bit actually, because I thought the drone was going to crash, and as I said, it did crash 4 to 5 times in total, but luckily there's no damage. But going behind the drone shouldn't have any issues, because obviously it's just travelling the same path as you. Just be wary of the height it's going in. Okay, if you found the video useful, if you could do the like, subscribe and the notification bell, that would be brilliant. I've also got a load of other videos on the DJI Neo 4 and the Neo 5 on the playlists, and that covers things like waypoints, master shots, hyperlapses, quick shots, all that type of stuff, all the basics you need for flying the drone. And also, if you want to be like Eric from the Netherlands and buy me a coffee, that would be greatly appreciated. There's a link for that below. And anything I get from that will go towards the new DJI Neo 2, which is due out next month. And finally, if you've got any questions in relation to the DJI Neo, the Hover X1 Pro or Pro Max, the DJI Mini 4 Pro or the Mini 5 Pro, let me know in the comments below, or anything else you want to see, also let me know, and I'll do my best, to answer them and get back to you. So thanks very much, and catch you next time.